Welcome back to another episode. And I brought back to the table Ryan Meinberg again. He's the managing partner at Career Evolved. And today we've got a really exciting topic. It's the top 5 reasons that executives break through. And in this current market, a breakthrough isn't always more pay. So, what do we mean by breakthrough? Because I've been talking about career breakthroughs for about a decade now. And for us, how we really define it, it's in a way that there's a breakthrough towards a new identity and new future. What do we mean by that? Because we look to get a breakthrough on every call with Career Evolve. But with this topic of career breakthrough, that can mean you're pivoting into a new industry. So you're getting more alignment with your values. You're getting more balance, perhaps, if that's a value, so that you can see your kids more, or you're not having to be on call for 80 hours a week, 24/7. Having those boundaries in place so you can have a life outside of work. Sometimes alignment is bringing more passion to your pride and work, and sometimes alignment is about the leadership team and the culture and the mission. You want more purpose, you want more visibility. And of course, we all want to build more freedom and wealth with, stock options, bonuses. That can be part of it too. But if we think about this just as a hockey stick growth, that's just not real life. So at Career Evolved, we take a more holistic approach, right, Ryan?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, especially on the breakthrough side, it usually determines upon where the individual is at in their life. When we have clients coming in that they've been C-suite or VP or high-level executives for 15, 20 years, their breakthrough is much more on the professional and personal work-life balance they're not at a point in their life where they're interested in doing the 100-hour weeks anymore. They're looking more to downsize. If they came from a multi-billion dollar company, they may want to do something along the lines of like 8 figures. And that way they can just contribute value and wear more hats than one, but then they can step away when they want to. And then you have other executives who are at the beginning part of their career. They're directors and they're looking to get that first VP role. And their hunger is just so passionate. They're on so much fire that it's basically their entire life. So they're willing to work that 150-hour weeks basically in order to make it happen. So that breakthrough is a direct alignment on what stage of life they're in, what stage of career they're in, and how they can fit the two that balances between their spouses or kids, or maybe some people don't want to get married. But usually the breakthrough is bound specifically with what they're excited about in life and how their career supports them.
I love that. And guys, we put together a list of the top 5 reasons that executives break through. And this isn't just my opinion. I really have been in this game a decade, and I've personally spoken to thousands of clients. So I've literally seen it all. So from people going through massive transitions where they have to completely reinvent themselves, or people over 60 that are like, oh my God, how do I even stay relevant? Or people that have to completely just pivot when they've been blindsided by a layoff, or people that are you stuck at a ceiling and they can't seem to figure out why. We've really seen it all, and we've come down to these 5 themes. So we did take a moment to really dig deep and get those 5 themes, but we did not script this out, guys. We were really constantly on the phone with clients and prospective clients. So we like to give you real insight. We speak to hundreds of executives a week. So everything we're saying is just coming from our real time perspective with what we're seeing right now with these themes of the breakthrough. But the themes come from a decade of doing this work. But right now, the stories we're going to share of people breaking through at each of these categories are specific examples. So Ryan will share to give you guys even more depth to the context of what it really takes to win in the executive level, because the game has changed even in 6 months, let alone a couple years ago, right, Ryan?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the market is constantly evolving, and because it's so unpredictable, we can even take real time and say that really no one predicted a government shutdown 2 weeks ago or less than 30 days ago. That was unprecedented. And that created so much panic in the market for a lot of federal employees. And no one knew about this 30 days ago. So, what Career Evolved does, especially with the clients, is the fact that It teaches you to always be ready because what you can't control outwardly, you can control inwardly to make sure you're positioned right. And a key to a very successful client is someone who's willing to remain tough in the midst of a very unpredictable market, and someone who bets on themselves and they're not willing to quit because that's how we get success. And I'm excited to share some stories.
All right, well, let's dive into the top reason that executives break through. And guys, I've seen it all. I can see two clients take the exact same actions, same tactics, same script, same framework, same strategy, same tools, and they get dramatically different results because of this one thing. And it's the most critical thing. If I could have only one, it would be this one. And it's they focus on their identity as a leader. And right now, guess what? If you have on your profile Amazon, Nike, big names, it doesn't matter. No one cares. And that's one of the toughest pills to swallow because when you're in a highly saturated market, it's less about features and benefits and more about that resonance and alignment as a leader. So I wanted, if you could just expand on this and how we work with our clients, and one of the biggest breakthroughs you've seen with leadership, Ryan, to get more specific on what we mean by this.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, we do keep client names under confidentiality unless they give us permission to share. Well, one client that comes to mind specifically, he's actually become a friend, and that's how valuable he's been, and how excited we've been to work together. Is the fact that the identity had to pivot for this individual because he came from big company. We're talking 25, 30 billion, big company, and that's all he had known for the past 25 years. So what was interesting on the identity side is the fact that we thought it'd be the easiest thing in the world. Downsell your life, downsize a little bit, kind of just pivot to a different organization. You offer tons of value. So you're basically having individuals work with you so that way they can leverage your clout and experience. And what the market told us is that the identity, even if you're transitioning industries and transitioning different size of company, is still so important because the market will always set the price. So with this individual, we had to let the market tell us exactly what the problem was. And the problem is the fact that experience and leadership works two ways. Sometimes people see it as a risk. Sometimes people see it as the fact that you've been priced out of the market. And then you have to reinvent yourself to what it is that your breakthrough actually is. You said it perfectly, Olivia. It's not necessarily more money, it's alignment. And what that alignment looks like takes intentional effort, and that identity starts with the psychological intelligence, but it's a mental strength. It's a mental strength to take what you've known, leave it to the side, and create something new that is attractable to exactly what you want. It's self discipline, it's intentional, and it's challenging, but it's worth it because what you're valuing is the breakthrough for you that no one else can claim. Because my breakthrough is different than Olivia's breakthrough. And each person has a standard of what they want excellence to be, but it's the job of the leader to adapt to what the market is saying that standard of excellence is.
And this is literally the biggest thing that most people are not talking about when it comes to really being able to differentiate yourself. People think about brand is just LinkedIn profile and a resume, right? No, you are a walking and breathing brand. Your energy, your presence, your tone, the language you use, your values, your personality. What do people say when they hear your name? What do they associate with that? How do you make them feel? What's the energy you bring? What's your brand as a leader? Everyone who's thinking about this very strategically, and if you want to make 150, 250, 350, and you don't have a clear leadership brand and identity, you're not gonna win. There's no way, not at that level. It's too elite, and people are not just buying value in resumes and brands and experience. They're buying the brand of the leader and the identity, and you've gotta be a force of nature to move people and move and get people in alignment with a vision to be able to get and rally a whole organization and team and influence an organization. That's energy, and nobody talks about this, but this is what we focus on. So I remember the exact client that Brian's talking about, and he was really having to do a lot of work on his identity because he forgot who he is. And a lot of leaders, they lose their identity when they go to a bad work environment where a boss isn't empowering them and it's a toxic work environment. They forget who they are, they get out of their power, they question everything, they don't even trust themselves. Or worse, they get blindsided by a layoff and now they don't know who they are without the title and the job and the paycheck. So they're just left as a shell of themselves. And I've seen the most powerful leaders, the top tier people making 300 grand, and the moment they're not working for 2 months, they become a shell of themselves and you could see that they're losing hope and you could see the fear in their eyes. So this is why I don't care who you are that's coming into this. We all start with identity because that's those millimeter tweaks. And sometimes bigger than millimeter tweaks, it's a whole overhaul. That is absolutely the root cause. We will not introduce anyone to our executive community until they've done that work because we know how important that first impression is.
Well, I think the reason why too, Olivia, is that not only just double down on that, but the reason why oftentimes people prefer to skip that piece and kind of wait till the end is because they think the fact that it's important as a elementary style of getting to that next level. But what happens is, and we see this all the time, the difference between final stages versus sealing the deal is the fact that that identity training shows up when you go to close. Every potential candidate for a role has to close. They have to close the deal on what makes them the right choice over someone else. People hire who you are and they don't hire what you do, especially as tools evolve to make what you do even easier. So at the end of the day, if it's between two specific candidates on one role, the one who did the better job with nonverbal communication, the one who knew how to communicate on an energy level where they were talking equal, and the one who did all of the work in the beginning to show up at the end is the one who's going to seal the deal every single time. But we try to look over that piece because it's easier to try to fix a strategy than to fix yourself. It's always easier to do that because
It's
if I can have
better.
the oh, absolutely, because no, if I can have the perfect strategy and I get to the end and it doesn't work, then I can blame the strategy every single time. We at Career Evolve, when we do a lot of coaching, we compare it to sports. You can draw up the perfect play at the end of the game, but the truth be told is if you're down by two and a three-pointer takes to win it, that ball is heavier when there's 5 seconds on the clock versus 12 minutes on the clock. And the one who makes that shot is the one who has practiced the energy and identity of being a winner. It's the same exact thing. At the end of the interview, at the end of the opportunity that you're facing, closers close, winners win. You have to practice winning or you'll never do it in the game.
And I love this. And also, closer is an identity. One that most don't have and have not even used, and they think they can do it, and they haven't even gotten in the game, let alone done the reps. So I bring this up, and we're gonna move to number 2. So number 1 is identity as a leader, but that has so many tentacles. This is like a 2-week transformation process in Career Evolve, but I had a couple clients, get seven-figure offers, and they said, "Olivia, I watched that identity transformation training 7 times, and every time I was evolving and shifting because as my mindset was evolving and I was becoming more aware, I kept growing and growing. And so, guys, this is a lifestyle. It's not just a one-time thing, but we get you on that path because if you really wanna keep breaking through and keep growing, keep evolving because that never ends. But the second reason top executives break through, Ryan, this is exactly why I use the word evolving, because that's the next reason, and this is a lifestyle, guys. It's not just a one-time thing, but D leaders who are breaking through are always evolving in all ways. Why don't you expand on that? What we mean by that, Ryan?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest part is the fact that when there's intention, intention to evolve means the facts that you have to understand that what you can't control has to be able to be balanced by what you can. And when you're evolving to what the market offers, you're always in front and you're operating from front versus from behind. And I think the reason why that's important is because if we take a hypothetical situation, does a VP of marketing look the same today as it did a year ago?
No.
Probably not. No. Does a VP of sales look the same today that it did a year ago? Absolutely not. But when you're stuck in your own bubble because you've been with an organization for a long time, even though everything else around you has changed, you haven't because you felt secure and nothing has had to change because you were always positioned as the prime target. So when you're no longer in that environment, even though you built a successful career, you're looking back and saying the facts that my safety kept me consistent, but it also kept me stagnant because I don't know what else is out there because I've never had to be involved in that situation. So we have a couple of clients right now that have done an amazing job evolving because they had to learn how their background is actually extremely transferable to other industries, but they had to position it correctly. And we do have one client who is working in the final stages of a C-suite opportunity that, first of all, didn't even understand that they were really C-suite level at that time because they never had that title. But it's a C-suite opportunity in an industry that he's never specifically worked in on his LinkedIn or resume. So, of course, the question is, how'd you get there? How in the world do you get a C-suite opportunity when your LinkedIn and resume doesn't even show it in this industry? And it was twofold. It was one, he had an amazing career promoter, but two, the person who promoted this individual to the CEO not only saw the transferable skill sets, but they saw the leader. They saw the leader in that individual, and they saw that that leader knew how to adapt and to evolve for what was necessary for that brand. And that career promoter pushed them all the way through because they saw the value in the individual. And that does not happen unless you are intentionally evolving and you look within to do it.
And this is perfect. You nailed it. I'm not even going to say anymore because evolving is a mindset. It's a growth mindset. You're either in a growth mindset or a fixed mindset. And most of you guys have read the book by Carol Dweck, right? The classic growth mindset. But if you haven't, check it out. It's good just to get aware of this stuff because if you're in a fixed mindset, you're not growing and evolving, you're expiring. So you've got to prioritize this for the new wave of business and the pace of change. You have to have that as part of your career management processes and get plugged in. And so the next thing I want to move to is I want to, and I don't think Ryan did himself justice because I've watched from the sidelines of what happened with that specific case. And there were several connections within our executive community at Career Evolve, C-suite people involved in this that Ryan personally has relationships with that because of we leverage our community to create opportunities every day, but that requires real relationships and advocacy. When he says career promoter, I mean pick up the phone call and really make a case for somebody. And that's a legitimate career promoter, not just somebody that's gonna say, "Yeah, give me your resume. I'll keep an eye out for you." That's not an advocate. That's not a career promoter. So you've gotta really establish deeper connections to be able to do that. So kudos to Ryan because it blows me away what we're able to create with this community just by leveraging those relationships and aligning the value, right? And that comes to the third point, give high value. The leaders that break through, they give high value everywhere they go, every conversation, and this is exactly how me and Ryan became partners. He was on my calendar every Saturday, and it's the only time I can meet, and it would just be give value, give value, give value, give value, and, it became really evident. I was like, "This guy is leading on a whole new level." Like, as an operator of a massive company and coming in to this business and just seeing so much opportunity, it was just evident. He I had to I said I had to make space for this guy. He delivers way too much value before I've even collaborated with him officially. So I just want to acknowledge that people don't show up this way, right? I mean, people are looking to siphon value and get things and they're transactional and they think if they give too much value, they're going to use me and I don't have time. I just need to get a job, right? There's a very transactional mindset and people are missing out on what it takes to build a premium brand. If you want to command 150, 250, 350 or sell high ticket, you have to deliver a ton of value before anyone's gonna pull their wallet out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's one of the biggest paradigm shifts in the market is the fact that it's especially at the executive level. You know, you did a podcast or a video not too long ago, maybe like a year or two ago, about the white collar recession, which was so true. And it's even gotten harder. And the reason why is because so many companies, especially big companies, have overhired and overstaffed at the executive role or at the executive level. And when money becomes a little bit tighter, economy becomes a little bit more strict, unfortunately, payroll becomes difficult to make because you see all of these executives working in an organization that may not be needed, or companies mergers happen where someone gets bought out and now you have 3 senior directors, 4 VPs, and you only need 1 at most because of that buyout, because of that merger. So when it puts people back on the market, value looks different. What used to be just strategy, and that strategy was so good for someone else to execute, now organizations are looking for a strategist and an executioner and the same leader because value has changed because market sets the price and executives are expensive. So what companies do different is they're operating more cautiously simply because a strategist just does not do it anymore. A strategy for someone else to execute is 2020 or 2022, 2023. Executives now are having to be engaged in the tactics while also able to operate at the strategy and where companies are looking for a 2 for 1 because that's where you're able to get a return on an executive salary. And if individuals don't know how to offer value on both sides, they're finding themselves a little lost because companies are not spending money as fluidly as they used to. And that's often the biggest challenge.
And this is a big wake up call. I want to stack on what Ryan is saying because it's so important. We have a big gap in the market of executives who are actually willing to roll up their sleeves and execute. And there's a big problem out there with entitlement, and I see it a lot with folks that think that their credentials and the brands on their profile entitle them to high level roles where you get to just be strategic, right? And so you gotta be careful. Same thing with the job search, right? You can't I'll take flawless execution over flawless strategy. And I was networking with a CEO and he's like, "Olivia, what would you rather take, strategy or flawless execution?" He said, "Execution every time." Because you'll eat everyone's lunch. Because everybody loves to come up with a strategy, but no one likes to get in there and test it and actually do the hard work of grit work of labor and iterate and test and fail and iterate. And that's really where business is happening and where all the value is happening. And oh, by the way, that's exactly where all the value is happening with getting your brand out there at one conversation at a time. So that brings me to the next fourth reason top executives break through is they have strong relationships. And relationships take a lot of work to build and effort. They're built through conversations and they're built through adding value. And so I want to talk about this because it's a skill that atrophies building strategic relationships, but this is directly everyone knows that your net worth is directly correlated to your network. So if you're not constantly evolving and expanding those relationships, then unfortunately, when you need to call on them, it's too late to start to build one. But we've got processes, thankfully, that we're able to rapidly build these connections at scale. Doesn't mean it doesn't take work, but it is the only way to get these top tier jobs when there's a shortage. You don't want to go where the market's saturated. You want to create those opportunities through strategic relationships. So, Ryan, talk about, a really great example that we've seen a breakthrough in this space.
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, just to kind of set the tone on that piece too, is relationships are built on trust. Um, and that's not just in your career, that's everywhere in marriage, in kids, your faith, your church. Relationships are built on trust. You have no trust, you have no relationships. Period. One thing that really comes to mind is a couple of clients actually, but one of ours who's doing an amazing job over at to be honest, a phenomenal brand in media is the fact that she shared in our group as she came back and shared a story was the facts that there's a social aspect to landing a role in 2025, and she's 100% correct because people go out of the way for their friends. They go out of their way for people they like. And one other client that kind of really sticks out to me is the fact that he also became a friend of mine too, because we shared the same faith, shared the same love for Christ, is the fact that he had a massive network in his phone. Now, is this true for everyone? Of course, of course not. But for this individual, he had built years into these relationships. He's a $500,000 guy at one point. He's just a very, very strong heavy hitter. And he knew the solution was right here. But he had no idea what to do with it. He had no idea how to leverage it because he understood that the relationship was important, but the relationship also played an effect in his identity that we talked about earlier. Because when identity changes, you don't want to create relationships. You don't want to go back to previous relationships and you don't want to create new relationships. Why? Because you feel other people see your shame that you see yourself with. So building the right relationships is twofold. It's intentional repetition. It's understanding that you have to offer specific value, but most importantly, it's about making sure you create trust to somebody that you know that you want to have in your life, both professionally and personally, because that's where you get the biggest advocates and that's where you get the opportunities that come at scale. And for that one client, um, his role that he selected as an executive or director, that literally came because people absolutely adored him. And when they found out the fact that he was in his power and he was ready to offer value to the next organization, that phone did not stop. And when he signed the dotted line, it was simply due to the fact that he had spent his entire career investing into people. And now it was time for people to invest back into him.
So, guys, I want to stack on this. Everything Ryan is saying is absolutely critical because we are currently in a trust recession. And what that means is people are really skeptical because of the use of AI. People are using AI to optimize their resume, where it's even changing the names of the job titles. They're using AI to write the bullets, and they're using AI to automate their outreach and automate and spam people on LinkedIn, as well as automate applying to hundreds of jobs at the click of a mouse. It's never been easier to just spray the internet with so much noise, and that sends the opposite signal of trust and connection because there's no intention. And this is exactly why I've been in this game for a decade and I'll be in it in another decade, is because what Ryan and I do is we prioritize trust, integrity, and relationships with everything we do. And that starts with on the front lines of our business. We meet every client that we're going to invite into this community because we know alignment is key and we want to make sure we protect the quality and that consistency with whoever we invite in. We're really proud to introduce them because for me, I know how important trust is. And I know it takes a decade to build a brand and it takes one day to break it. And that happens with how you do everything is how you do everything is one thing is how you do everything. And so for me, really getting crystal clear this year and getting on the front lines to build these relationships so that we have a thriving community. There's no more important place for me to be in my business than speaking to people and building real relationships and protecting the brand. And that same goes for you. If you want to grow your career, there's no more important person. A recruiter can't do it for you. AI robot can't do it for you because they can't build relationships for you. You cannot outsource your brand. Your brand is your relationships. Your brand is you, and you're walking and breathing. And people don't want to do that work because they forgot how. And that's exactly why AI is killing EQ and social intelligence. And we have to get people back to basics when they come to us so they can actually compete in this current competitive market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's no such thing as a winner who said they won the title and it was easy.
Ex
So if it's easy, it's not true. That's just the best way I can describe it. You don't look at any professional basketball team, football team, World Series winner that's going to be happening to the Dodgers here in the next couple of weeks, right? It's like no one's ever going to say, "Hey, that was easy." Nothing of value is easy. That's absolutely impossible. So if you can apply for a job at the click of a button to land an executive role, please run away. That's just not true.
Just really quick, go Yankees. Now let's get into the fifth and final fifth and final reason that executives break through in their career. And guys, this has never been more true than now. It always has been, but they invest in themselves and they invest to be a part of networks. And I'm just going to say, I've invested hundreds of thousands of dollars to be in masterminds, to get top tier coaching, to get access to mentors, to get personal development on my skills of marketing, selling, brand building, my education in organizational psychology, my ability to really stay in tune with the market, attending conferences, retreats, getting in the right rooms, partnering with the C-suite network. I mean, all of this costs a lot of money, and I don't ever stop investing because I will always bet on myself because I know the value of a premium product. We are all a premium product, by the way, not just me. You need to start thinking that way if you're gonna be relevant in this new age of business, because we are all businesses of one, and we are a brand, and a premium brand would not wanna go in the hardest job market right now without a strategy, without a network, and without strategic advisors if you have no idea what you're doing. If you just want a job, get a job. We're talking about breakthrough. We're talking about alignment, and winners win in any market because they do more, not less, and they invest in themselves. And so, that's something that we've thought long and hard about at Career Evolve because we know how scared people are to invest, especially if they're not working or, times are tough right now. Inflation's been hitting, everyone's feeling the squeeze. That's why we've completely restructured our investment, and it's never been more accessible than ever with the financing and payment plans because I don't want anybody coming in here stressed out. I'm not here to make people worse. I leave everybody better than I found them. So that's really what I stand for, and I wanna make it easier and less intimidating for more people to invest in yourself. So if you're listening to this right now and you have not invested in yourself, I would highly encourage you to book a call with me or Ryan. You just go to careerevolve.com/schedule, www.careerevolve/schedule. But Ryan, talk about, investments that we see our clients make just beyond obviously they're investing to work with us, and it's a game changer because if you've got a team of experts, a proven strategy, and a network in your corner, you can't lose unless you just don't show up. But what other investments, do we see our clients making that are getting these breakthroughs?
Well, I think in addition to investing in themselves, they're also, like on a financial standpoint, they're also investing into their future and also within their families. There's a lot of individuals who are just understanding the fact that the next opportunity that comes has got to be the right one, for long term, right? And so that they're investing in what they want the next 15 to 20 years looking like, and it's worth it simply because of the fact that when you look back on it and you can say, hey, I had invested in college degrees. I got two of them. Student loans, they're not cheap. People invest in a wedding for one day, and it's like, wow, that's a hefty credit card payment after that one day, and you include the honeymoon and so forth. My goodness, that's crazy. There are so many things that we invest into for quick fixes that we think is going to be magical, and it may not be. So I think the one thing our clients are investing in the most is the fact that they know what they're worth, so the latitude and the understanding is there instinctually. What they're investing is to understanding how what the strategy, the transformation, the breakthrough, and the results look like long term. Because Career Evolved, we have a platform, but what I think makes it so special is how in depth customized each plan is for each client. Because sometimes we have learned that it's not enough, and you and I specifically have gone so far above and beyond what's necessary because we put our success in someone else's life. Because our career is our financial stability long term. It affects how we live our life. It affects the decisions that we make. It determines how you buy a home, how you send your kids to college, whatever it may be. So I think the facts that what people invest in is just understanding that they're not taking a risk they can't afford. And I think the one thing that we've done to negate that concern is the reason why we're here is because it's our time. It's our commitment. It's like we're committed to your results, regardless of what that looks like, simply because that's what our vision is all about. It's about transformation. We mean that on the outside, we mean that on the inside. Transformation will always be the ultimate goal. And that's what clients are investing in, and that's what they're getting.
And I just really think that anyone who invests in Career Evolved, I and our process for helping executives break through in their career, I don't want them to just get a job. I want them to get a breakthrough. And that's a holistic transformation. So you not only leave with a new job, of course, we know you need results, right? We take this very seriously. I know it's your livelihood. We know you need to earn cash. So we are the fastest and most effective way to get that outcome. But fast job isn't always best job. So for me, when someone invests in Career Evolve, they're getting an upgraded mindset and identity as a leader. They're getting an upgraded personal brand and messaging, upgraded skills on ability to build demand for yourself and get exposure and visibility as an executive, leaving with mentors and an upgraded network and community that you're a part of for life. And really, you're leaving with a whole nother level of trajectory that you just unlocked with your career. So it's just such a powerful process that I'm not just here to help people get jobs, guys. That's not inspiring. I've been doing this a decade. I'm here to help raise the consciousness of corporate America to help people get more alignment and more strategic and less reactive. It's easy to get into fight or flight when you're in between transition because you don't feel safe. But we're here to bring you safety plus alignment plus actually turn this setback into a breakthrough. So if this sounds like it's resonating with you, you can book a call and guess what? You're not going to be with a salesperson. Nope, you're going to speak to either me or Ryan, the partners of this company, and you would do that at www.careerevolved.com/schedule, and you're gonna be asked to fill out a form. And guys, I have to be real, I have limited time. We are very much in demand. So we do cancel half our calls because we are the ones taking them. We know who we can help and who we can't. If we can't help you, we will point you to other resources. We have a ton of different programs, but for our executive community and this really transformational process that I was describing, we have to make sure you're ready for it. And we'll make sure if you are, we'll have a call with you and we think you are. We don't invite everyone in, right? But you will get value, you will get clarity, and I promise you it'll be the best year you've spent on your career this entire year, especially if you never invest in yourself because I'm not here to pitch people. I'm here to get to the truth and see if you're really ready for a breakthrough. And if you are, then the investment's gonna be a no brainer, but regardless, you will be leaving with value and clarity. So go ahead. If this resonated, if you love this podcast, please, please, please write us a review. We are giving you so much value. All we ask is that you just go ahead. If it resonated, go head on over to iTunes or Spotify, give us a review, share it with a friend. We would love to help more people. We know how many people are struggling out there right now, and we need your help to get the word out because there's so much shifting right now. And we want to give people real information coming from what's actually happening right now. So thanks again, Ryan, for joining. It was great, and we'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for having me.